Hey everybody, Jazzy here. And look Mom, I'm in a Don Giani video. I've been watching this dude destroy DST bosses since my early days of playing in this game, so suffice it to say, when Don asked me to commentate on his FUELWEAVER fight, I nearly swooned. Nearly. Hope I can do justice to this incredible fight. Now, because it is winter in the atrium, first thing Don's going to do is throw up a bunch of dwarf stars. This is going to ensure that he won't have to think about the cold for the duration of the fight. Looking at his inventory, we can see 2 thulecite suits and 3 crowns. Wolfgang's going to be doing a bit of tanking during this fight, so the extra armor is important. Always hard to tell how much armor you can expect to use in this fight, especially if it ends up lasting for longer, so it's always a good idea to err on the side of caution. And first attempt assembling the skeleton is a winner. In a speedrun, that's pretty good luck. This fight's in the bag. You'll notice that Don has a single Lazy Explorer at 85%. That's 3 uses expended getting to the atrium gate from the Tentapillar entrance. For a speedrun, it really makes no sense to waste time in the atrium just to save a few hits of your glow stick. You'll also notice that Don is using 1 thulecite club for the fight, with the Dark Sword as a backup. Normally, a single club wouldn't be enough, but with Mighty Wolf, you're just saving on every resource. That's one of the hidden reasons why Wolf is so amazing for speedruns. In addition to ending fights quicker, he also needs fewer resources to finish, so you're going to save a lot of time gathering those resources. Now, the resource to watch out for in this fight is the Lazy Explorer. Don will have 17 teleports, and then it's game over. So it's really important for Don to avoid the snare as much as possible. If the orange stick gets used up, Don won't be able to stop FUELWEAVER from healing itself. Well, time for the last honey ham. For healing during the fight, Don's going to rely solely on the healing from the cooked cactus, which can be sufficient if he's slamming it to keep his sanity up anyway. And there goes a bunch of it right now, just to top off his sanity before the fight even starts. He could have let the Dwarf Star restore a little bit, but it's a speedrun. Can't wait around forever. On that note, let's get it on. So, until FUELWEAVER gets down to about 63% health, he won't cast any summons, so you can safely kite him during this time. The plan was to kite and avoid the bone snare, so of course the first snare traps him and he's forced to just tank the phase. It's not a deal breaker though, and as Mighty Wolfgang, it won't last too long. Better to use the extra armor than waste Lazy Explorer during the first phase. Remember, you get 90% protection from thulecite gear, and the occasional force field from the crown makes it perfect for tanking. Well, that didn't take long. Now FUELBro is going to first cast his shield, then summon his Woven Shadows to come heal. At this point, Don uses a technique that was demonstrated by a player named Who Needs Space, and it will allow Wolfgang to lure FUELWEAVER away from the shadows and get in a very decent chunk of time to freely tank him. The basic idea of the technique is to carve a path through the Woven Shadows while clearing the unseen hands. If you can keep FUELWEAVER following behind you, then eventually you can lead him into a corner far away from the shadows and just start tanking him while the shadows try to catch up. It is a phenomenal technique because when done right, it means you don't need a weather pane to kill the shadows. The real trick with this method is to not kill the last unseen hand until right before you start tanking. When the final hand goes down, a 20-second timer starts until the next shield, so you really want to maximize the time when the shield is down as much as possible. Now, a few Woven Shadows will still make it over to the corner eventually, so Don was aiming to teleport himself around FUELWEAVER in order to take out the stragglers on time. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out so well in this round, and FUELWEAVER scoops up 3 shadows in 1 bite. That's 1200 HP restored. Not great, but moving on to the next round. So now the shield is back up, but the last Woven Shadow just died. That means the timer is counting down until the next round of shadows. In order to maximize the next corner session, Don's going to clear all but 1 unseen hand right now. This will keep the shield countdown from starting again until he's ready to lead FUELWEAVER back into a corner away from the shadows. By the way, the thing he's doing with distributing the Nightmare Fuel through his inventory, that's in order to keep the placement of items consistent while he uses hotkeys to quickly switch between inventory items. Sometimes the game chooses to unequip an item back into a random inventory slot, and then you lose time trying to rearrange your inventory. So filling it up like this ensures that there's only 1 spot for the item to land. Now, check the action going on in inventory right now. One of the crowns breaks right here, so he has to swap in a fresh crown. He then moves a single piece of Nightmare Fuel into the empty slot to keep the inventory slots full. And then right here, he slides over towards the Woven Shadows to position himself between them and FUELWEAVER so he can pick off the stragglers before they reach Shadow Mama. He's then able to get in a few more hits before the shield goes back up, at which point he clears the last shadows. There is so much art in this movement and coordination, it's unbelievable. You'll notice that Don has to position himself exactly in order to dodge the snare. You stand next to the corner of the pillar, but not actually touching it. Again, he's leaving one hand active so that he can wait for the next round of shadows. And here they come. Clear 2, then back to the pillar to dodge the snare, then it's back out to clear more and make a path to the empty corner. Now there's currently an extremely annoying bug where FUELWEAVER will completely lose aggro on the player when they teleport. It can't be avoided, and it means FUELWEAVER goes straight for the closest shadow. It can easily ruin this fight because it means FUELWEAVER will heal, and it really should be fixed because there's literally no way to prevent this from happening. You just gotta pray that it doesn't. I can tell Don was trying to position himself closer to the shadows, but because of those shadow tentacles, he couldn't target that area with his staff, which meant he had to go a bit outside, move back in. FUELWEAVER munched on a shadow in the meantime. Still a decent round though, got lots of damage in. At this point though, the health in Cactus is getting pretty low. Probably enough to last one more round in the corner, but that's it. We really can't afford to have FUELWEAVER heal more. Again, leaving one hand active and waiting for the Woven Shadows. One last trick Don pulls here is to bait FUELWEAVER into staying in the corner. When he summons the shadows, they only spawn in the middle circle and are easier to clear. You see that? He baits it again to keep him away from the shadows, then moves back in to clear. Then it's time to lure him to the corner. It's gotta be now. Put yourself in Don's shoes for a minute. He's been speedrunning for 3 straight hours, focusing intently while jumping through all the hoops just to get to this fight. Now he has to actually do this extremely difficult fight, full of nerves and fatigue. This is a true master at work here. And there he goes. FUELWEAVER dead with 4 teleports to spare. No weather panes were harmed in the killing of this shadow monster. As Wolfgang, you can get away with 1 lazy explorer, but as other characters this would be close to impossible to do without at least 2. You gotta tank with this method, otherwise you just don't get in enough damage during that window of time you get with FUELWEAVER in the corner. This fight is all about finishing as quickly as possible. The longer the fight lasts, the faster your resources will disappear. But there you have it. It is still possible to speedrun FUELWEAVER without weather panes. Thanks to Don for this amazing fight and giving me the honor of announcing the blow by blow. Today was a proud day for Don't Starve Together.